can't quite understand the name of the injection. What is it?
The NAD class. NAD class.
Is that what it was?
What does it?
Is it human growth hormone?
What does the?
No, it's like it's hard to say. It's like stem cells.
No,
What they do? What that contain? Nutrition.
I'm assuming it's like rocket fuel.
no, it says, I just
Yeah,
know the
essentially,
name.
NAD is like a chemical in the energy process. That we all use.
You can read that in Chinese.
You can take pills as well.
NAD, is that right?
NADs, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen that in those. Well, the 70s, like, I'm on a drip of it, and I did. So they do it to help them feel better.
How was that?
Oh, you should have said like, the right time, maybe you would know.
Oh, really?
I believe nuclear type.
Make
Yeah.
you more energetic or younger.
But this is, so you can take like niacin, is one of the precursors for it. Oh yeah, just to be vitamin. But we get not as good at converting that into NAD for energy because we get older. So we can inject it, we can supplement.
But there's that whole thing of melatonin as well, isn't there? There's
Yeah.
melatonin, like the non-sleeping melatonin, which is very hard to get here.
Non-sleeping melatonin.
Yeah, there's melatonin is in every single cell, and it's really good for the mitochondria, is what I understand. You probably know more about it. And basically, it's the melatonin you can get here is you can get like 10 milligrams, but it's not high enough dosage. And basically, it's the kind that makes you really sleepy. So it doesn't really, yeah, that was my experience anyway. So it's like melatonin is really, really important, and your body doesn't produce it as well as you get older, like vitamin D. That's why older people like one of the best vitamins you take is vitamin D. So this is all, the kind of stuff where sometimes even if you want to get it, you can't get it here. It's restricted. So, but for me, it's much more about energy, honestly.
It's really great that we have an age range from very very experienced one to the pretty young ones as well. We get like so much perspectives and experiences shared about the longevity, and I guess like the practice, right? Like, is there, especially to the spiritual ones, that kind of encourages people, not like enforces people to, like, is there a way, for example, like if you're, for example, meditating and trying to calm your mind and everything, scientifically maybe it will reduce like stress hormones and cortisol and stuff that could help you to live a little longer, because it's, like these hormones essentially can also damage your cells and tissues, and also helps with probably like enforces the aging as well. So what do we think about that? Is there any knowledge that?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's why breath is the #1 biohack. So it regulates our nervous system, so we can just do coherent breathing, 5 or so seconds in, 5 or so seconds out. Whenever we think about it, that'll bring us back to a nice balance, homeostasis, and that'll help our energy balance. So if we're
It is kind of-
energized or stressed, we go back to balance. If we're depressed,
Your breath is amazing that way, right? Like your breath.
Yeah,
I mean, it's literally, if you know how to breathe, one breath can calm you down.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, easier said than done. Because it gets back to what we talked about, like being present, or whatever, however you want to define that. But we get caught in our heads a lot of the time. So that's one way to think about it. We spend more time in our bodies, present, intentional, then yeah, we can I don't know what studies there are around this, but it would be an interesting study to say, hey, you guys need to focus on coherent breathing for the next 3 months. And we'll see. So, I mean, longevity studies obviously talk about it. You can't do it on people. And you probably can't train rats to do coherent breathing either.
I used to work for Mind Hong Kong, which is a mental health charity, and what we do know about, like for mental health, much like completely, it's probably the best thing you can do for your mental health is exercise. Yeah. So it's phenomenal, and of course exercise is going to involve, changing the breath. Yeah. So breathing. Yeah. So I think they're very hand in hand.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, exercise is massive, and of course, when you walking is wonderful. Walking is cognitive. Walking improves your intelligence, according to studies, and that's something that's really special as well. Just with walking, in Chiang Mai, we've got a problem with walking. It's so fucking hard. But in Hong Kong, I walk everywhere.
But also, like, isn't there a conflicting theory that like people are fundamentally evolved to walk, and therefore, by only walking, it doesn't really make so much change. Like there was
Depends on how much you walk. Depends on how much you walk.
depends on how much we're walking.
Sure.
But that's true. I learned something from my patients when I used to work as a doctor, and people get sick because they're disconnected from their bodies. So we usually say, okay, this is a mental health issue. This is more a more physical issue. But they're actually all the time. They're connected all the time. There is no separation between them. So when we treat mental health issues, we need to work with the body. You control the mind with the body, and the body with the mind. There is no separation. So if we are going to talk about longevity, we need to think about those two aspects together.
There's a lot of research being done now in neuroscience. They're studying long-time meditators. They're putting fMRI machines, looking at whether different meditative states, what's going on in the head, neurocircuitry, all this kind of stuff. And I know in this Tibetan Buddhism, there are a lot of specific practices in working with the subtle body and moving energy and all these kinds of things. So I think in spirituality, there's actually quite a bit of teaching available around the mind-body connection and breath work, certainly, and all that kind of stuff is part of the larger package.
And also, sorry.
Just what comes to mind for that is like there are these natural things we can do, like breathing, meditation. But then there are the fancy, sexy biohacks as well, like neurofeedback training, right? So they've studied people who do long-term meditation, and then they can actually put they can measure your brain waves, and then they can stimulate certain brain states to actually. So I did a program that was essentially that called 40 Years of Zen, where it was 5 days of intense neurofeedback training, and I felt amazing.
For how long? Did you feel amazing after?
For a few months at least, yeah. And they say, well, keep meditating, keep doing these practices to keep it going longer, right?
How amazing exactly was the difference?
What's that?
What's the experience from you? What's the difference between just what's how amazing? I want to know. Like, what's the difference you felt from your body or what does
It kind of goes back to where you were pushing back on being present all the time. So I was almost like too far, I guess, disconnected from reality and thinking about the future. So it was kind of good to get that experience and just feel like if anything happened, if I were to die or somebody close to me would die, I just didn't feel like it would affect me that much, right? So there was kind of this, it wasn't dissociation from reality, but it was just kind of like unaffected by things in the world, which just generally put me in a better mood, right? But also kept me from maybe planning for the future to some extent. So there was kind of a trade-off.
But it's only continues for a couple months. How about after a couple months? Did you still continue have that feeling, or just lost that?
No, I just kind of tapered off.
Yeah, but you also stopped the practice.
I mean, some of it,
You discontinued the practice.
so I was deep into meditation for a few years, and I got out of that. And so, yeah, I'd say some things stuck and some things didn't. And I'd also say, since I brought up biohacking, you can take certain supplements and pills that
But
will
you-
actually make some of these beneficial changes stick.
Yeah, but you can see the same thing about physical exercise. If you go to the gym for, however period, a year, 2 years, and work out every day, and then you stop, that muscle tone is going to fade over time, and your abilities augment. Sorry.
No, I just want to say, I think a lot of this stuff, it seems quite recent, the evidence for these, something like, sorry, what did you call it? The
Neurofeedback training?
neurofeedback training is that it's still anecdotal and experimental, right? It's hard to know, let's say, what the long-term effects are of doing it a lot, or it just seems like the nervous system generally takes a long time to develop, and there is a lot of energy and information flowing in there. So to, let's say, do something that creates I'll just call it synthetic, sense of well-being, it would feel like perhaps a shortcut.
It is a shortcut. That's the idea of making feel good in your mind. And use the machines. And they do this. I mean, it's not just a machine doing the work. We actually had a counselor leading us through it. So there was a lot of past trauma and emotion that we were working through during the process. And that's kind of why they call it 40 years of Zen. Is that so you can get half a lifetime of training done in 5 days. I mean, that's
So it was also essentially working with emotion and information that was real versus just
it was very, very real, very real.
I think it doesn't necessarily have to take so long. I mean, there's an organization called Healthy Minds, and they do these kind of studies, and I think they said that even an 8-week training in meditation can have significant changes.
huge change, right?
It gives you one gray matter.
But he was talking about 5 days, right? So that's why I was just curious. But it seems marvelous to me. I mean, I really great.
Yeah, if you have 15K to spend, you can
Meditation
do it right now.
Meditation.
But now it's becoming more accessible where you can actually get some of these machines in your home.
The real thing, I guess, when I'm hearing things like biohacking, I think the real thing about life now, whether we talk about living long or whether we talk about living a good life, regardless of how long we live, is we do have adversity to pain, right? Most people want to kind of go out of it or around it versus heading straight into it, right? And the most frightening thing I've found, just what's happening in America and a lot in Europe, is that just people take pills for everything, right? I mean, the amount of medicine that people take to avoid emotional pain, when essentially they are just exposed to a massive amount of stress that's unresolved, right? So, I mean, feeling good is not that, I shouldn't say, I'm not everybody, but I think feeling good, it requires some effort, right? But as soon as you start to replace maybe the bad emotional habits or physical habits with some better ones, I just find it's always amazing how quickly the whole body recovers and feels better. And I'm definitely generalizing that.
Yeah, I guess just to put some context around longevity, there's lifespan, which is what most people think of longevity, how long you live, and then they talk about health span as well. So just living a general healthy life.
And really, like, it comes down to, like, what we say when I was studying massage is as soon as you stop being able to move, that's when all your problems start. Yeah, so as soon as the joint freezes up, you've really got to take care of your joints. You need to take care of your
Well, that's interesting because from the martial arts perspective and from Chinese medicine perspective, you work on longevity and you work with ligaments and tendons. So when we work on the
He
ligaments
just
and
studied
tendons,
social work.
when you work on the ligaments and tendons, so in martial arts we don't work with big muscles. We don't work with heavy weights.
Core strength kind of.
Core strength, and we stretch a lot. And you know, like Mapu, for example, a horse stance is designed to strengthen your tendons and ligaments and your joints. So we work on that, and by working on that, our lifespan gets. That's the idea.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
But with getting back to the biohacking solutions with AI, in theory, in the future, like we've all seen the movies, The Matrix, right? The Matrix movies.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, it seems like that's where we're headed, where we get the download, we get the program, but now we know how to do this, or we get the stimulation in the body that fixes our joints.
Yes.
We already have muscle stimulation to exercise our muscles without having to move anywhere. There are full body suits you can put on.
Yeah, but I mean that's the point. That memory is not in the brain. Memory is everywhere. So when you meditate, for example, if you do meditation, you can improve your training, your physical training, and when you train, you improve your focus, your concentration. So it's the same. Well, we tend to separate things, but the mind is everywhere. The memory is everywhere. When you get traumatized by something, it's stored in the body. It's stuck. You know, the emotion is there. And when you do meditation, you relax your body, the emotion comes up. So, for example, if you do deep meditation and you're dealing with some emotional trauma, it comes in your dreams or during meditation. But it's like it's solving, you know, it's getting solved. But the memory is everywhere. So when we train martial arts or QiGong, you know, or do energy work, we actually get access to that information in the body. It's that memory. Yeah.
Like a actual memory when you're meditating. It resurfaces. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. It's stuck there. So when we get any very strong emotional experience, it's there. It could be from happiness to depression or whatever, but it's stuck there.
Yeah, I had a client and guided her through an hour-long breathwork session. She was a collegiate athlete playing volleyball many years before, but she suffered from chronic back pain, which she didn't mention until after the breathwork session. And she said, "My back pain is gone." So it's interesting how to explain that. I know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Breath. I think breath is the bridge between what we call the mind or the consciousness with the body space. What connects the consciousness with the body.
That's an old idea. The word psychology comes from sukha, which is, I think it's a Greek word, right?
Greek word for soul. Suke is the Greek word for soul.
Soul.
Pneuma is the Greek word for spirit or breath.
Oh, you guys so wise.
I just proved that.
Older than wisest.
Thank you, Ollie.
And then there was this talk about it wasn't exactly the same, right? Like when we talk about someone mentioned it about Greek time theory, like they have experience time, right? So expanding the experiences to have a fulfilled kind of satisfying the time, the mind, and everything in between. Just expanding those experiences and the time that you enjoy living, not only how long do you live. Right?
It's also characteristics.
No.
It's also like 4 characteristics of transcendental experiences, and one of them is a sense of timelessness. And so it's just experience many spiritual experiences and different spiritual practices. So,
Would you like to give like 5 minutes break to get some water and then, like go around? But I wanted to see like there's like some interesting questions for me, but also like when we come back and just talk about a little bit more about that. Well, I kind of wanted to choose something like I forgot. Oh yeah, suppose like technology allows you to live healthily to 150 with your mind and body in your mind. How would you plan these extra decades of life? So you're like 70 something, right? Like if you live at 150 with the like mind and body in your the prime, how would we want to plan the extra decades of life? How would we want to do that? And if like if we see death as a necessary part of life, that gives meaning and completion